Alright, I hope you lads are doing real well. Today I'm going to show you what I really believe is the greatest hay baler ever made by what they call humanity. And yes, I really believe that. This thing is a New Holland chain baler. This is a, I don't know, I think it says so. It doesn't matter. It's an 850, that's the model. It's a very good machine. Believe it or not, this is what I rolled all my hay with this year. I bought it for 500 bucks. Okay, the machine is not perfect. It does have some issues. You know, like for example, it's missing a fucking wheel, but I'm working on that. Okay, it does have some issues, but here's the thing. It just works. That's what I love about these things. It's a bit of an odd design. These are not in production anymore. Oh, light, what are you even doing? Let me tell you, you guys should buy one of these lights, by the way. I've had this thing for ages and it still works. Anyway, sometimes people ask what my thoughts are on farm equipment. I'm not very brand loyal, as you guys know. Let me tell you, the number one thing to look for is a machine that just fucking works. Okay, that's why I run old equipment. That's why I run a hay bine. That's why I run a side delivery rake. That's why now I run a chain baler, because it's not finicky and it just works. Okay, you don't get that with new equipment. With new equipment, what you get is the fact it's made in just the absolute cheapest way possible to limp it through the warranty period. You get equipment that was never engineered or tested properly, so it holds together. You get equipment full of just the nastiest, cheapest Chinese bearings. I think there's some good Chinese-made bearings, but you know, not the stuff you're going to get in the equipment at the dealership for tens of thousands. That's going to be just the raunchiest, most vile, shortest lifespan stuff they can find. Ask me how I know. Let me tell you how I know. I bought a brand new baler a little while back. I bought it because I was specifically told that it will bale wet or dry hay. I baled damp hay with it one fucking time. And from that day forward, this machine that I paid tens of thousands of dollars for broke, and I'm not exaggerating, literally. It broke literally every single time I used it from that day forward. There's no more new equipment on this farm. That's the conclusion that I reached. It's just, it doesn't pay off. That's the long and short of it. You know, this baler I paid, I think, $500 for. I might have paid $600 for. I don't really, I'd have to go look it up, but either way, okay, the new production machines, if you're gonna buy a new round baler, it's probably gonna cost you 40 to 60 grand. This thing was $500. It made it all season without letting me down. The one I paid tens of thousands of dollars for didn't make it through one season before it started developing major, and we're not talking small issues. Okay, this one had small issues. There were some shear pin shenanigans. It blew 2 hydraulic hoses the first time I used it, so I went through and put all new hoses all around. But still, that was only like 330 bucks or something for those. I bought them from Surplus Center. Yeah, they go right on. Look at that. No fuckery, just standard 3/8 NPT. I love it. Anyway, where was I? The reason why these things are great is because they just fucking work. That's the reason why. It's like a side delivery rake. It's like a hay bine. People spend so much money. Yeah, true story. Hay production forum, I guess you could say, that I go to sometimes in my spare time. Har, har, har. Some guy had a PTO shaft break for a disc bine, and just the PTO shaft is like $4,000. Okay, I bought my hay bine for 900 bucks, and it fucking works. Okay, the machine that cost probably not 10 times that would be 9 grand. Okay, so yeah, the machine that costs like 30 times as much as I paid for my hay bine is sitting there broken, and my $900 machine is ready to go to the field. Let me tell you, we don't do new equipment, at least not new implements anymore on this farm. They will literally never pay off, ever. All right, there's a lot of people don't understand the margins on hay are actually quite thin. A lot of people who make hay don't have it together enough to keep a notebook, keeping track of everything they spent to actually produce hay, so they don't know how much they're not making. Now, you can make money doing hay, okay? But see, there's a few caveats. You have to have access to land without spending much money. Okay, in Texas, thankfully, a lot of the state's income is generated through property tax. And if it's used for agriculture, the property tax is like, I don't know the specifics, but fuck all basically in comparison. So there's basically an endless amount of somewhat decent. You have to be picky. I learned that lesson the hard way. It's not all worth farming, but you can usually find that land for free or close to it. Okay, so then you got the land. And I know that's one state, but a lot of states are like that. And then you need equipment. Do not buy new equipment because it just doesn't hold together. That's the lesson I learned. So let me tell you, New Holland chain balers are just the ticket. Look at how beefy this thing is. Yeah, that's another thing. Newer equipment, it's not tested like the old stuff was. The components are just, like I said, the cheapest things possible that'll limp it through the warranty period. And it can be engineered to be functional, but what happens is then cost-cutting engineers come in and they make it so it just doesn't hold together. And then it's your problem for an insane amount of money, so much so that it will literally never pay for itself. And then half the time it sits there broken while somebody with old equipment comes in and actually gets the job done. Now, the reason why you can't put electronics on a baler is because they just don't fucking work. This doesn't have electronics. What it has, you guys aren't going to believe this. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. It's got a crank. You crank this fucking thing. It's got this twine arm. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that bale tying action. And yeah, the twine arm comes down, twine goes through it, through the through those fence insulators. And you move that crank back and forth, moves this thing back and forth, and it sucks in the twine like it sucks in, you know, a person if they don't stay far enough away from things. It's actually a pretty good safety demonstration because it will absolutely grab that twine and start chooching. But anyway, yeah, that's what it does. It sucks the twine and you just move the thing back there and it puts the twine on the bale. You snap this thing back up in here. It's got the little dealio that holds it. Got a knife down there and it cuts the twine. That's it. I'm telling you guys, this is the absolute pinnacle of agricultural technology. It's everything you need and nothing you don't. There is no computer. There is no monitor. It's just the hay goes in, you know. That's the part that most round balers can do somewhat reliably, is form a bale. Okay, one of the biggest issues you ever have is with electronics. This just doesn't have any. You know, it needs twine, so you just put the fucking twine. There's no other steps. Like there's nothing you don't need. You just put the twine in, then you have twine on the bale. And then up goes the cylinders, just like a regular baler, and you have a bale. All right, beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I love this thing. You know, if you're going to ask someone to engineer a machine that bales hay in a reliable fashion, just the most reliable way possible, this is what they'd come back with. I'm pretty sure that's the story of how these were engineered. Okay? Needs twine. Simple system to put the twine in there. Not really anything that breaks. And that's it. There's no other steps. It just does what it needs to do and nothing else. Where was I? I don't know. I was ranting about something or other. Right. Everything before this point was not reliable. Okay, before this point, you have square balers, which just don't fucking work. That's just the long and short. All the people who knew how to work on those retired like 20 years ago. And they're just non-stop problems. That's why we don't do square bales. Okay, and then after square bales, after square fails, you got that first generation round baler technology, those really goofy looking things. You know, I think they call them a closed throat design or whatever. Okay, those, at least in theory, would function. The problem with them is, from what literally everyone I've ever known who's run one has told me, they're incredibly finicky. Okay, that's the issue with them. Then you got these things. Then you got the chain balers. Look at that. Industrial, just hardcore, zero fucks given, does what it's supposed to and nothing else. Masculine awesomeness. It's perfected to the point where it bales hay reliably. I'm telling you, man, this is it. After this point, it was all downhill. After this point, what they did is they looked at this simple twine mechanism and they said, this is unacceptable because it's just not complicated enough. We need to make this more expensive. So that's what they did. You know, like that 648, you know, exactly what I'm talking about. A couple generations after this thing, that other New Holland baler I had back in the day, it just wouldn't wrap bales no matter what. Like I dicked with it for days. Mechanic Steve dicked with it. You know, you can't take it to the dealer because they just can't accomplish anything and pay out the ass for having them even try. So we knew better than to try that, and no one else could make it work, so therefore it just didn't work. You know, wrapping bales and so forth. Yeah, that's a great example. If it had this mechanism, it would have worked, because that's what it does. It just functions. All right, that's what's great about these things. After this point, the machinery got a lot more complicated. After this point, corporate America really got involved and started cheapening things out. You know, this machine has a lot of the original bearings. You know, a lot of this stuff is probably original when it was new. I think it's like a 1970s machine. It's a 1970s machine, and it held together better than my 21st century brand new baler. I'm telling you guys, no more new equipment. It's too many problems, and it'll never pay off. It's definitely not like new, but you know, hope to God, say my prayers so it'll hold together for a while. So I'm not looking forward to having to replace this thing when it looks like it's going to suck. But you know, probably it's not going to suck anymore, and spending tens of thousands of dollars on a brand new machine that breaks literally every single time you use it. I'm telling you guys, this is it. This is the peak of mechanized farming. This is enough modern advancements so it makes big bales, about 5x5 approximately with this machine, in a reliable fashion. And it was all downhill from this point forward. You got what looks like the same exact pickup they put on basically all their equipment. Hey, check this out. See that block thing there? Get the light out of there. Yeah, that's a hydraulic hose clamp thing. I'm trying to professionalize working on stuff and not just use zip ties to secure hydraulic lines. I just found out about these fairly recently. But anyway, where was I? Basically the same style pickup they all use. You got your 6-bolt wheels. You got your, that's where I put that, front PTO shaft. Another cool thing about these, what's nice about twine tie round bales is you can use the cheap, crappy twine. And yeah, I don't know about the math and the physics, but somehow it works. That's what everybody uses. And yeah, I need to pressure wash this thing. Now I'm winding things down for the season. But you know, I can't believe it. $500 I paid for this thing, and it just fucking works. Now 10 times that would be $5 grand. I guess 100 times that would be 50,000. 10 times 10, I don't know. I'm not that good at math, but anyway, you can spend 50 grand on a brand new round baler that just doesn't function and won't get the job done. Now mine wasn't quite that much, but if I bought it now, it probably would be. Doesn't matter though, because you just can't turn a profit with new equipment, because it just breaks all the fucking time. It costs way too much in the first place. $500 for this thing, and it works.